All right, welcome everybody back to another week of Talkin Sports with me, Chris Powers, as we are seen in the New Orleans area. I was in New Orleans on Friday. Good to see all the Crescent City was buzzing big time with all kinds of things going on in New Orleans. The Rolling Stones got 60,000 people at the one and only Jazz Fest, 560,000 total. Unbelievable. New Orleans was buzzing the last couple of weeks with the NBA and obviously with the golf tournament and what have you. It's been awesome. The city was buzzing on Friday. They had traffic everywhere. We're seeing in the New Orleans area, 89% of the metro New Orleans area still has Cox Cable, and we're seeing right there on Cox Cable right here on Pelican Sports TV, seen 5 times a week on Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., Friday at 9 p.m., and Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. All right, so we've got also, you can go on the YouTube channel. You can also download the app to your phone, watch it anywhere you want at any time. We have great sponsors like TJ Ribs and attorney Tony Clayton. All right, so we start today. We've got the Saints. We're going to give you the grades after the draft. And also we're going to talk about LSU softball and the state of Louisiana softball, the NCAA softball, and all that stuff. But we start with, of course, LSU. The chance of making the NCAA tournament took a major hit this week when they lost 2 out of 3 to Alabama. They had a chance to win it on Friday. They led Alabama pretty much the whole way until this boneheaded play we're going to show you right here that happened with that Milazzo, the catcher. A routine hit. Milazzo told the pitcher, hold back, and threw it on the right side of the plate instead of the left side of the first base. That scored 2 runs. Alabama comes back and wins the game. Are you kidding me? If I'm Jay Johnson, I go to Milazzo, and I love the guy to death. He's a great kid, great player, broke his leg last year in the World Series. But I go to him and say, how many times have you thrown the ball to first base? You throw the ball on the left side of the bag, never throw it on the right side of the bag. You threw it in the path of the runner. Not only do you, so if the runner beats out the play, okay, you got a run that scores. We're tied. We're going to extra innings. But because you threw the ball away, we lost the ball game against Alabama. So LSU beats Alabama on Saturday. That was good to see. 6-3 final score as former pitcher Luke Holman for Alabama pitched 5 2/3 of an innings, looked good, grabbed his 7th win of the season. He beats his old team on Saturday. LSU notched 10 hits and scored 6 runs. Now on Sunday, LSU had just 6 hits and scored 3 runs. They lost. They lost 2 out of 3 to that series to the Alabama Crimson Tide, and that hurts. Alabama had the 14th ranked in the RPI. LSU was 34th. So that hurt LSU's chances big time. Most of the D1 projections have LSU on the outside looking in before that. Now they don't even have LSU looking in at all right now. So LSU has some major work to do this coming week against the Ole Miss Rebels, and that's going to be big. So LSU needs to almost sweep Ole Miss, who beat number Texas A&M, by the way, this weekend. They took 2 out of 3. And the only chance for the Tigers to have the NCAA tournament is if they make a big run in the SEC tournament. And just as we were talking off air just a moment ago, looks like they're going to make the SEC tournament. Auburn and Missouri are that bad. All they got to be is the top 12. So 13 and 14 don't make it. Auburn and Missouri won't make it. LSU did beat Missouri earlier this year, 2 out of 3. So they win that series there. They lead Missouri. LSU leads Missouri by 2 games. So even if it's a tiebreaker there, LSU goes into the tournament because of the tiebreaker, and they beat them. So LSU just looks after a good mark against Ole Miss this weekend, and then they go to the SEC tournament, and they're going to pretty much have to make either a deep run in the SEC tournament or even win the tournament outright to make the NCAA tournament, because now RPI came out today. They're still 34th. And, Jonathan, I know that you were watching this weekend, I'm sure, as well. And so here it is. The way the RPI came out today, Alabama now moves up to 13th. They were 14th, so they move up. Ole Miss now, by beating Texas A&M, moves up to 24th in the RPI. And that's huge. Louisiana Tech is 33rd, Marty. LSU is 34th. LSU stays at 34. And Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, are 39th. So we have some teams right there from Louisiana that can make it. Jonathan, I mean, I know you must have been disappointed after watching the Alabama game this weekend. I was so mad at Milazzo on Friday night. I was fit to be tied.
Yeah, and I do a lot of coaching, especially with the young guys, Chris, and catcher is the hardest position on the field.
Yeah.
You touch the ball every single play. You're in charge of the defense. There's a lot going on. Not only are you wearing the gear for 2.5 hours, but LSU has 3 good catchers. So Milazzo really hasn't had a lot of time, as much time as he had. Well, he did get hurt last year, but needless to say, you have to set your feet when you're making the throw, especially when it counts. And look, Milazzo's a fantastic defensive catcher. That's why he's in the lineup. It's not for his bat. That's for certain. He's a defensive dynamo. He's great at stopping balls behind the plate. He handles pitchers well, the whole staff. But, yeah, that play, and when you consider Jared Barrett-Jones, who is still trying to get comfortable at the position, he was not able. Who knows if Trey Morgan is able to straddle the bag, get out of the way of the runner, maybe catch the ball and make a tag. Jared Jones had no chance of getting out of the way of the runner or stopping the ball. Ball rolls into right field, and you lose the game on a walk-off swinging bunt in a game that you had a 3-run lead most of the game. Certainly disheartening for LSU fans who've been watching all season. That was a tough game to lose. LSU had won 9 out of 12 going into Saturday. Picked up a win. Good for Holman to beat his old team, but Sunday couldn't get it done. Didn't have the clutch hitting. And look, Alabama, new head coach. They had something to prove against LSU. If you remember last year, LSU was the last series before their head coach got fired for that whole scandal and possibly some mishandle of some bets. So they had a point to prove. And you mentioned the RPI for Ole Miss. It's a big series coming up, Chris. I think LSU does make the SEC tournament, obviously, as you mentioned, but got to build some momentum moving towards the postseason. You mentioned how Ole Miss did just a couple of years ago. Now, they got hot at the right time and ended up winning the national championship. It's a good opponent for LSU. They match up well against Ole Miss. They should wrap up this regular season with some momentum heading into that SEC tournament. Yeah,
it's just crazy. And then, obviously, Neal played catcher on Sunday, and a pass ball scored another run for Alabama.
Yep.
So they had a hard time behind the plate this weekend for LSU. And this is crazy, Jonathan. This is nuts. That if LSU doesn't make the NCAA tournament, for some reason they don't make the NCAA tournament, which is a good chance they won't. They have to go deep into the SEC tournament like we mentioned. But let's say they don't make the NCAA tournament. That'll be the first time since 2011. And that will be the 3rd national championship team in a row not to make the NCAA tournament after they win their national championship. Mississippi State did it 3 years ago. Ole Miss did it 2 years ago. LSU would be on the 3rd time. Vanderbilt won the national championship before COVID, and then remember that the COVID canceled the next season, and then the next season Vanderbilt came back and lost in the national championship against Ole Miss. So I'm in Mississippi State. So is baseball getting that bad? There's no reason why LSU has the best fans in the world, the biggest attendance year in and year out, the best resources with their facilities. How do you not make the NCAA tournament?
I'll say, Chris, I think baseball, unlike the other, or more than the other sports, to go deep in the postseason, you have a lot of seniors on your roster. You have a lot of guys that have played a lot of baseball at the SEC college level. That was no exception for LSU last year. Lost so much talent to the pros, and then guys who just hung it up, either went to coaching or did whatever post-baseball life, but they're done. And, you mentioned, not having a lot of Louisiana flavor on this year's squad, but just the guys, you had to fill out an entire new roster. I mean, you only had one starter that returned to the infield, and that was third base Tommy White. And he's playing like it. He has played a Gold Glove caliber third base. I mean, an absolute vacuum at the hot corner. He's always had an elite bat. But what he's done on the field has been exceptional this year. But, yeah, you mentioned, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Both of those teams are also riddled with seniors, and then they came back and had to replace those guys. And you try to dance in the portal as best you can, but, you don't know what you're getting until they get on campus.
No, I mean, just everybody. Also, my uncle from New Orleans hated Maneri. Hated Les Miles, hated Maneri. He's not Skip Bertman. Nobody ever will be. Jonathan, go back and look at the last time that a team won back-to-back national championships in college baseball. It's South Carolina. What was it in the early it was 2010, 2011, or 11 and 12 or something like that?
Sounds right, yep.
I mean, that's the last time they won back-to-back national. Nobody wins back-to-back national titles. Right now, USC has 12, LSU has 7, Texas has 6. And the last time USC won a national championship was 1998, 25 years ago this year.
Yep.
So that's why it's just tough to win back-to-back national titles but for this would be possibly the third team in a row. So what are your thoughts about LSU? Do you think, let's say they win 4 games, because next year everybody makes the SEC tournament. All 16 teams will make the SEC tournament in a single elimination tournament next year. This year it's still 12. And they do what the first round is single elimination. Then after that, it's double elimination or something like that. I hate that format. It's so weird. Do you think LSU has to win 3 or 4 games in the SEC tournament to maybe get an outside bid for the NCAA tournament?
I do think they have to at least win 3 games. But here's the bright side, Chris. I think they will. I think they make a deep run into this SEC tournament.
This team, on paper, is really one of the best teams in college baseball.
You get this pitching staff a little bit of rest, get their bodies right, moving into that tournament, and you get guys who are supposed to start on their allotted days rest. It's going to make a difference for the team. You don't have to pull in a Gage jump out the bullpen. He can have his allotted time to start. LSU has enough arms with rest to navigate a tournament. They're very talented offensively. If they can just get some momentum against Ole Miss, to close it out, LSU can absolutely make a very deep run in the SEC. They proved it. I mean, they were, 1 run away from Arkansas, lost to Florida in a very close game. They're right there. And that was when LSU was reeling. Now they have some confidence. If they can just build some momentum, get these bats hot, they can make a deep run in the SEC tournament. Don't be surprised if they do.
Yeah, and they're playing hard right now. They just boneheaded play here and there on Friday, and they would have won. And also, too, which is interesting, and we talked about Milazzo and that boneheaded play that he made. Yeah, it was bonehead, and then Neal made a pass ball on yesterday and scored another run for Alabama. I played tons of baseball all my life. The only position I did not play, catcher. I never played the catching position, ever.
Yep.
Alan, you played catcher? 8 years. I never played catcher, ever. Played every position on the field except catcher. All outfield, all infields, pitching, never, ever caught, ever.
I thought it was great. You're involved in every pitch.
Wow. To me, to have to have where a guy's going to swing the bat and you have to catch it, and if he misses it, you got to catch the baseball. That's crazy. You got to have coordination big time. All right, still to come, we're going to talk SEC softball. LSU, of course, makes the NCAA tournament. We knew they would. Where are they at? Also, coming up next, so we're going to talk about the Saints grade after the draft. How do the Saints look as the schedule will be released this week? We'll tell you more about that coming up right after this. We're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I. It's right here on Pelican Sports TV. Yes, the NFL schedule comes out on Wednesday, and the Saints, of course, will find out where they're going to play, when they're going to play, and what have you. We already know. Now, the Saints are going to play 9 home games for the first time since the 17-game season comes out. They'll play 9 home games and 8 road games. One of the home games is going to be Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. So I'm assuming that one should be on a Thursday night, a Sunday night, or Monday night football game. I think it's going to be a primetime game. Sean Payton comes back to the Superdome. How will they greet him? Jonathan, how do you think the Saint fans are going to greet Sean Payton coming back? Will it be a boo?
Of course it'll be a boo at first,
wow.
Chris. Of course it'll be a boo at first, but then as the game goes on, they're going to cheer for Sean Payton. He's going to get his time. They're going to show him on a Jumbotron. They will have his opportunity to cheer for him. And look, a lot of Saints fans still have a lot of love for Sean Payton, me included.
Yeah, I do too. I mean,
look,
he won a Super Bowl all those years. He did well. I wouldn't boo him. I'm not booing him.
You could say he left the team high and dry with the draft picks and kicking the can down the road with Drew Brees' contract and him and Mickey Loomis's relationship and sending all those players to Denver when Sean Payton left for free. But look, you mentioned it. Brought a winning team to New Orleans, something that Saints fans only dreamed of for years. For seasons, showed up to the games legitimately with paper bags on their heads, saying "ain'ts" written across it.
Yeah.
Look, there was no more tortured franchise for fans than the Saints fans. But so, look, Sean Payton turned it around, brought in Drew Brees, built a winning team. It was so many 10-win, 13-win seasons, sold out the Superdome, which we talked about on this show.
Every year since 05.
I mean, there was blackouts for decades before the Saints turned it around. But certainly he will be booed in the opener. As soon as that game starts, they run on the field. He's getting a big old boo. But the Saints fans will show their love to Sean Payton because no doubt he did a great job for us here.
I'd love to be at that game. I can't wait for that game. All right, so I'm going to grade every position for the Saints right now. This is after the draft. And again, this includes depth. Not just starting lineup, it includes depth on their football team and the lack thereof I'm looking at right now. All right, so let's get going right now. The Saints offense last year, it was about middle of the pack last year as far as that goes. We got some of the highlights we're going to show you right here from some of the things they had. First of all, starting with quarterback Derek Carr, I still have confidence in him. Last year he threw for 3,878 yards while being sacked 31 times. He's been sacked 58 times in 2 years. Now, of course, 2 years ago he's with the Raiders, last year with the Saints, but 58 times he's been sacked in 2 years. That's among one of the worst in the NFL. Carr ranks 22nd last season with 68% of his passes complete. He had 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, and he had 7 fumbles. I give Carr a B, and I think he's got a worse offensive line this year than last year, and this is his second new offensive coordinator in 2 seasons. Behind him, Jake Haener, suspended 6 games last year for PEDS. Remember that? He never saw the field as a rookie. He was a 4th-round pick as a rookie, of course, a couple of seasons ago. He's not afraid to take a hit, but he has a strong arm. That's great, but he's never seen the football field in an NFL game. Preseason, yes, but not regular season. I give him a C. Spencer Rattler, same thing. Could be the same thing. Got great scrambling ability. He can pass strong. He's got a good, strong arm. But he's got to have a good team surrounding him to be a good player. I give him a C as well. Taysom Hill, I give him a B-. And the reason I give him a B- is because of accuracies with passing. I think overall he's great. He gets, he runs great. Obviously runs the best. He's a great he's a great athlete, period. I would never trade Taysom Hill, ever, 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 because he's so good. He could catch the ball, pass the ball, and run the football. He plays special teams. Are you kidding me? He's blocked punts, too. I love the guy to death. I'd give him a B-. He would probably be the backup. I don't know, Jonathan. Spencer Rattler and one of those guys are gone. Jake Haener, one of those are gone. I think with Taysom Hill, I would keep Taysom Hill as that roster spot for the backup, and I'd either keep Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener, and the other one's gone.
I think they keep Taysom Hill on a roster as a tight end, keep both quarterbacks, Haener and Rattler. I don't think Peterman makes a team. Look, rookie minicamp happened this past week, and they were really impressed with Spencer Rattler's arm. He was throwing the ball all over the field. You mentioned Haener. He missed his first 6 games. They were also very impressed with him in his rookie minicamp. So we'll see. Taysom Hill, you mentioned it. You can't get rid of him. He does way too many things for the Saints, wears way too many hats. That's the great thing about Taysom Hill. You can slot him in a depth chart wherever you need to going into the week to fill out the roster.
The Taysom Hill thing, he didn't line up at tight end hardly at all last year. I think that's horrible. Now with a new OC, word is I don't even think he's going to put him in the tight end spot, which he don't deserve to be. I think he's better in the running back spot. But he can catch the ball in the tight end spot. I think it better. He's a wideout, not a good blocker, obviously. He is a good blocker, but I mean, again, he needs to be a guy that's involved in the offense, rather. So total grade at quarterback, I give it a C+ with the Saints. Offensive line, as I told you, I think it's worse this year than last year. I think it's absolutely horrible to see what's going on. I think the draft pick they got, how do you say this guy's name? Fuga, or whatever the name is, Talisa Fuga. He's an A-. He's going to start at left tackle. They got no choice because Trevor Penning is a bust. He's a C. He's still there. There's a chance Trevor Penning could move to the right tackle spot because if you think left tackle's bad, right tackle's even worse. Right tackle's the weakest part of this whole football team. So Joshua Ezram is behind that as well. I give the left tackle spot a C+ for the Saints. Left guard, not much better. They got Odo from Minnesota. He's 43 games, and he started 18 of those games. He's not strong either. I give him a C. He hadn't made any he's given up sacks in his games, and 43 games he's played and 18 games he started. I mean, it's a good pickup. He's a big body. He's a big 300-plus pound guy. So, I'm not going to give the guy a bad grade. I'll give him a C. Mark Evans behind that is a D. Lemieux behind that is a D-. Total grade of that left guard is a D-. And Jonathan, when you got left tackle and left guard, it's a blind side of a quarterback, and you don't grade well in that. That's why I didn't like the Saints draft. They didn't go what they needed to with offensive tackles. They got 2 offensive tackles, but they got the best players available, what they did, because – look at Kool-Aid was available. They did not think Kool-Aid would be there. They didn't think Rattler would be there, so they got him. And other than that, guess what? Now you've just wasted 2 offensive guard or offensive tackle. They didn't get 1 offensive guard, and that kind of hurts. Udo, who comes from Minnesota, really is an offensive tackle, but they're going to put him at that left guard spot.
Chris, there's really no other options for the Saints right now except to go get some type of experienced free agent to plug in a guard spot because, you mentioned – if you look at the roster, at right tackle, they don't even have Ryan Ramczyk listed right now. There's no confidence that he's going to play this season, possibly ever again.
Right.
You draft this kid out of Oregon State who was a very accomplished right tackle in college, didn't have a lot of snaps at that left spot. They think he's going to translate, but they're really just putting their eggs in that basket, crossing their fingers and hoping. And you mentioned the line from last year. Derek Carr was running for his life. I don't know if you saw during Mardi Gras last season, they had a Derek Carr float. He was a zombie. It said, breaks down by the 20 or whatever. And Derek Carr kind of made a joke about it. He said, well, that's kind of how I felt for the first 6 weeks. I was running for my life, dealt with a couple of nick injuries because he was getting banged up.
No.
He is going to be running for his life. And he's not a mobile quarterback. He does enough in the pocket to where he can escape sometimes, but that is not his game.
So as bad as that was last year, this year is worse because you got Landon Young at the right guard spot. If Ramczyk don't play, he's second on the depth chart. That's what I'm saying. If in some way Penning has ever made a move, if I'm Penning as big as I am and as much money as I'm making, I am all season long working, and I'm either going to be the left tackle or I'm going to be the starting right tackle. He's got to do something. He's so big and he's so strong, but you can see defensive linemen, because of how they go, and it's just not about strength, it's about knowledge. They stood, so he's like this at every time, and he stood up like this all the time last year. When your back is going back like that, when you're going back past your hips, that means you're getting your butt kicked. And he got his butt kicked on all the plays last year in the NFL.
Chris,
then he started.
It got to be so bad, and I heard it was comprehension. It wasn't ability. He struggled even to be like the extra jumbo package guy and eventually was replaced as the jumbo package guy and never saw the field. Physically, the guy was a bully in college. He went to a small school, but we thought at least run blocking would be especially. And, it was a big talk in his rookie minicamp about he came and his attitude, and he was starting all these kind of fights, and they had to tell him to kind of, calm down and save that energy for the opposition. And I don't know if they kind of clipped him, where I don't know. I don't know what happened, but something changed in that young man. And with Clint Kubiak coming in as an offensive coordinator, they absolutely, for the amount of resources they allocate to that young man, they have to get production out of him. For their roster, they have to get production out of Trevor Penning.
So the only reason they don't cut him this year is because they need the bodies. So let's look at the right side, which is good. You got Eric McCoy, the center. Obviously made his first Pro Bowl in 2023. I think he's a good center, no question. I give him an A-. I still don't think it's where he needs to be as a perennial pro, but I think he's right there, all pro, I should say. Sincere behind him, D-. Behind Eric McCoy, there's nobody. You would have to move Ruiz, who's been at center in college. Cesar Ruiz, who is a right guard, a B+. I don't think he's given his potential yet. I think he's good, but he hadn't given his potential where he could be yet. I give a B+. Saldiveri behind him is a D. Noelle is a D, is D- at least. I give this right guard a D+. Like I said, right tackle, we talked about it. Landon Young right now would be the starter because Ramczak's nowhere to be found. I give the offensive line a C at best, and that's very
generous. Grade on the curve.
Yeah. I mean, C is about as best I can give. Yep. Now let's look at the wide receiver spot. Chris Olave, 2 years, he's gotten over 1,000 yards. Great job. Problem is, he's got 9 touchdowns in 2 seasons. 5 his rookie season, 4 last year. He does great over the top. Last year he had trouble reading plays, and you could tell it was not Carr, it was him. He ran instead of a curl route, instead of a go route, he ran a curl route in that Thursday night game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was at that game, and he's blaming Carr, and I'm like, no. If Carr threw the ball deep on a go route and you curled in and you're doing like this, that's your fault. You made the mistake, son. I don't even have to look at the playbook and know you made the mistake. So Chris Olave is doing well, but he's got to find the end zone better than 9 times. That's just crazy. He's got to be able to do that. I still give him an A- because of his speed and his ability. Cedric Wilson, after that's a C. Bub Means, they just drafted him from Pitt. He's a C because he has never seen. And Stanley Morgan is at least a D. C+ in that wide receiver 1 spot. Wide receiver 2 spot. Rashad Shaheed, I give him an A- because of the fact he's an over-the-top guy. Sometimes, though, he's not as durable as you'd want him to be. He missed a couple of games last year, but also he also drops a few balls. But he is the deep threat right now for this team. I give him an A-, very good. A.T. Perry after that, C-. St. Brown a D. Jermaine Jackson a D-. I give this grade a C as well. So wide receivers, I give it a C. And, Jonathan, I don't think I'm being outdone on this because they don't make the Pro Bowl and what have you, and they're not opening up the offense. Olave and Shaheed is really the only 2 wide receivers they've got. They didn't really go out and replace Thomas really with a good wide receiver.
No, they really tried to force Michael Thomas the ball last season at times just to try to get him involved in the game before he quit on them again. A.T. Perry is a kid they really do believe in. Big body, can go get the football. Didn't really get his opportunities early in last season, but really came on strong in the second half. Bud Means they're going to figure he's going to play special teams right away. It's a guy who's very physical. He's a big body, very athletic, can go run down. And the Saints have been very good at finding these diamond-in-the-rough special teams players. You know, Justin Hardy, who made a career making Pro Bowls as the gunner. He's now with the Jets. But, J.T. Gray, another guy that plays some safety for the Saints, but really a special teams guy. So
Shaheed was, too.
Shaheed and Olave, both are burners, Chris, but they're not big targets in the red zone. Saints struggle to run the ball in the red zone, struggle to find the end zone. Derek Carr didn't have his time with his receivers. It is hard to do when you have speed guys running speed slants, speed curls, when that tight window closes in the NFL. When it gets even shorter down the red zone, having those speed burner guys only, it makes it harder on Derek Carr.
And this is how bad the play calling was last year. That you've got Graham, and every time I'm in the red zone, Graham comes in. Whether he's a decoy, whether he's going to catch a football, and they were too stupid to do that until the end of the season when it's too late. So at tight end they got Juwan Johnson. He's too inconsistent for me. He makes some spectacular catches, and then he drops an easy pass on a slant or whatever, and that's why I give him a C+. Forster Morrow, I'd love to say, okay, hey, he's a feel-good story. He's from LSU. He was with Carr at Las Vegas, and obviously we know his condition. But at the same time, missed that wide open shot that wins the game against Jacksonville in that Thursday night game. I was sick out of my stomach. He was sick out of his stomach. He's a feel-good story, but I give him at least a C. I mean, do you think he's over a C? I don't think he's a C plus B or anything.
No, I think the C grade is fair for Foster, but he is absolutely a glue guy that you need in the locker room. The Saints lost a lot of leadership when they had to transition to Dennis Allen, and now another transition into an offensive coordinator and Clint Kubiak. Need a guy like Foster Moreau in the locker room, no doubt.
Yeah. So the total grade I give the tight ends D+. That's because Tommy Hudson after that. And Michael Jacobson after that gets D's and D-. So for running back, now this is a hard one to do. Alvin Kamara hadn't gotten 1,000 yards rushing in 2 straight seasons. But I think he's still a nightmare. There's 2 players on the Saints teams that defensive coordinators say they lose sleep when they play the Saints. Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara, because they're mismatched for everybody on their defense. You think about it. So Alvin Kamara, who are you going to put on him? A linebacker? You can't catch Alvin Kamara on a linebacker. You going to put a safety or a cornerback come after him? And what about the same thing with Taysom Hill? Who are you going to put on Taysom Hill? A linebacker? Taysom Hill will outrun that linebacker. So Alvin Kamara, even though he hadn't gotten 1,000 yards in 2 straight seasons, I'll give him an A- because he's such a great special treat. And the new offensive coordinator said he is going to reinvent Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is going to be huge this year on offense. He's great. Jamal Williams, I'd love to give Jamal Williams more than a B+, but I can't give it to him. Last year, he couldn't get past the line. He got struggled all the time past the line. And, Jonathan, my question is, how is a great running back in Williams, who led the NFL in touchdowns the year before in Detroit, comes to the Saints, gets 1 touchdown. Remember when they got that touchdown?
Yeah, I do.
Against the Falcons in that brouhaha at the end of the game. That's
Jameis
it.
Winston, victory formation.
All season long, that's all he got. 1 touchdown. So my question is, okay, so I want to blame the offensive line for Kamara and Williams not getting past the offensive line. But my question is, how does Taysom Hill do it? How does Taysom Hill get past the offensive line? I'm thinking Williams does not have good peripheral vision, where Taysom Hill knows where he finds the lanes. Right when he gets to that hole, he finds the lane. I'm thinking Williamson don't have that good peripheral vision.
Well, at the same time, Taysom Hill, most of his carries come out of that quarterback power formation where there's an extra blocker.
And they know he's going to run.
That fullback is an extra blocker, right? So they have, 6 trying to block 5 in the front, as opposed to the Saints couldn't block anybody last year.
No.
There wasn't a lot of holes. I thought Kendre Miller, their rookie last year running back, was going to have a bigger season. He did deal with some injuries. I think he'll have a better year 2. I got to point to the offensive line, though. I thought Jamal Williams would have a better year than 1 touchdown, obviously, but the Saints just couldn't run the ball. Outside of Taysom Hill, they just could not run the football, and that starts in the trenches. If you can't open up holes, it doesn't matter how physical you are. Taysom Hill can run over a cornerback, but he's not running over a 370-pound defensive tackle every time. Yeah. It's just not going to happen.
And every time Taysom had the ball, they would run the ball most of the time instead of passing it. That's why I gave him a B plus rather than getting him anything higher than that because of that. So total running backs with Miller and Robinson coming in after that, I give the Saints running backs right now a C. So 14th in offense last year, the Saints were. 337 yards per game, 44 touchdowns is what they scored. So that's the offense. Coming up, I'll tell you what I give you the offensive grade total and what the defense. We'll look at the defense coming up and what I think the Saints' overall grade is after the draft. We'll do that when we come back right here as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV. We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty Package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger.
Chris Powers. All right, we looked at the Saints offense. Let's look at their defense. How about Carl Granderson at the left defensive end? Did he shock everybody last year or what? He shocked me. I didn't think he'd be as good of a player. 179 total tackles last year for Carl Granderson. Great job for him. 23 sacks he had. 3 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. I give this guy an A-, and if he has a better year this season, look out. Of course, right after that, Tano, he's got a B- about. He's a good player. He's a good guy. Come after that. Foskey's after him with a D, and Latu is a D. I give total grade here a C+ on the left defensive end, and that's, again, because of their depth. Left defensive tackle, Kalen Sanders, second year is going to be from Kansas City Chiefs. He didn't have a great season. I think he had 53 tackles last year. I give him a C right now. He'll be in the second season as New Orleans. Brian Breezy with a C+. I think he's good. Now, my question, I think he's better than Sanders, and I wonder if he's going to make it more this year than Sanders, because I'll say this, that if he can get his durability, meaning that if he can play a whole game, I think he should be the starter, because when Brian Breezy was in there, I thought he was good. Pacini, after that's a D. Baugh is a D-. Left defensive tackle total, I'll give it a D+. Right defensive tackle, Nathan Shepard, also not a big game changer. I give him a C-. I think the Saints have the same problem LSU does. Their 2 defensive tackles are not the best in the world, even though I give Breezy, I like him a lot. I would put him in that second spot, in that left defensive tackle spot, I would. Shepard comes in as a C-. Heflin right behind him at a D. Christian Boyd is at about a D-, and Lalos is there at D- as well. Total D on the right defensive tackle spot. Right defensive end is the best position they've got in the New Orleans Saints, period, pretty much. Cameron Jordan still ranks out as an A. Nobody knew that he got injured last year. He had a leg injury. He didn't play as good as he could have. At some point, he's going to slow down. He did slow down a little bit last year. He is still at an A. And right behind him, Chase Young at an A-. My question is, so they signed him for a 1-year deal. Are they looking at something? I mean, they're not looking to get rid of Cameron Jordan anytime soon. He signed a lifetime contract. But at the same time, Chase Young could play a little bit of that left defensive end spot where Granderson could come in there. So we may see Chase Young, even though they've got him listed as a right defensive end right now, he's coming off an injury as well. I still give him an A-. Peyton Turner after that, C-. He didn't do too bad. And Jeff Coat a D-. I give this a C+ to a B- grade at that right defensive end. So defensive line total, I give it a C grade, Strong inside linebacker. Now, this one's going to be probably not a lot, even though they got Willie Gay at the strong linebacker spot. They're probably going to go with more the nickel, and they'll use the middle and the weak side linebacker more. So the strong side linebacker you probably won't see a lot, but Gay is listed as a strong side linebacker. He didn't have any big career in Kansas City, and especially last year. I give him a C+ in this deal right here. Jalen Ford gets a D. Monty Rice after him, and Isaiah Stallbird gets D-. I give the strong side inside linebacker, which is not a big key position here, a D. A middle side linebacker, Demario Davis. Jonathan, you and I talked about that weeks ago. Every single year he gets over 100 tackles every single season, total tackles. He's amazing. I still give him an A. His speed is unbelievable. His nose for the football is great. However, he's going to slow down at some point. At some point, he's going to get slower and slower. DeMarco Jackson is behind him. He gets a D. And Kaliki Hudson gets a D-. All in all, I have to give this a C position in the middle linebacker spot. But Demario Davis at some point is going to slow down. And I hate to see that because this guy is so great, and I think he should have made a ton of Pro Bowls every single year he's ever played. Pete Warner is just he gets injured every single season. Now, the first half of the season, he led the team in tackles, but then he got injured. Kind of reminds you of, what was that guy, that long-haired guy in Detroit that went and played? He was linebacker for the Saints, and then he went to the Detroit Lions. He was just in Detroit. He had long blonde hair. I can't remember his name either, but he reminds
Alex
me of that.
Anzalone.
Yeah, so he gets hurt all the time. And that's the problem. Pete Warner is good. He's got a nose for the football. He's almost in every tackle. I still give him a B because of his durability. He always gets hurt every single year. Sewell's after him, and Arfany RJ. But again, keep in mind that Willie Gay could be moved to that weak linebacker spot if Pete Warner goes down, because again, they're not going to use a strong linebacker, inside linebacker too much. So I give it a D+ for that position. Right cornerback is the strongest position on the team. Marshawn Lattimore. So is Marshawn going to be trade bait, Jonathan? He's at an A right now. I still give him an A, even though for the last 2 seasons, Marshawn Lattimore has been injured. Now, whether it's because his locker was next to Thomas, and they both went to Ohio State, but Lattimore, is he getting tired of the New Orleans Saints? Is he kind of like over the Saints? Is he trade bait? Will he be traded this year?
I think he's trade bait. I think you go and get Kool-Aid McKinstry in order to have some flexibility, in order to trade a guy like Marshawn. You're not going to be able to pay him next year if he wants, $20, $30 million. So you might as well get what you can while you can. I do think they'll have to make a move. The Saints have got to come out of the gate strong if they want to build any momentum to build towards the postseason, because you get these Who Dat Nation fans sleeping on their hands again, not showing up to the games, no home field advantage. There's no buzz around New Orleans. It'll never get right once the season gets rolling. Right now is when you have to capitalize on any type of momentum you have, any type of enthusiasm the fans have coming out of the draft into a new season. Got to start out the gates pretty hot.
I agree. So I would trade Marshawn as well. I think you can trade Marshawn because you've got really 4 good cornerbacks.
Yep.
And you've got Kool-Aid. Obviously, I'd give him a B+ because he's never seen the field, but I think he could be another Marshawn Lattimore very much. Amada's right behind him at a C+. Lawrence Johnson at a D. All together, I give a B- to the right quarterback spot. And again, because of you got to go by depth. And their depth right now with Amada and Lawrence Johnson is not good. But when you got Kool-Aid McKinstry there, he is very good. He's going to be probably seen also in a nickel package a lot, too, that you're going to see him. On the other side, left cornerback spot, I like Adebo. Adebo gets an A- as well. Alontae Taylor didn't have as great of a season, but he has potential. I give him a B because nobody thought he burned it up last year. I mean, he had potential to burn it up, but he didn't. Rajon White after that is a D, and Shamar Jean Charles is a D as well. I give that position a C. Free safety, Jordan Howden. He gets a B. He's pretty good at the free safety spot. J.T. Gray is also good at a B-. That could be I think that's going to be a battle for that spot there this year. Rico Payton after that, and Falcon Hicks after that gets a D and D-. I give that a C. Tyrann Mathieu, hey, he's still got it as well. But that's 3 guys, Jonathan, that I've talked about right there. No, 4 guys. That's 4 guys I've talked about. Cameron Jordan, of course, Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore, and Tyrann Mathieu. Been playing this game a long time. At some point, they're going to get slower. Tyrann Mathieu got an interception in the first game against the Tennessee Titans. He gets an A still. But after that, downhill majorly. Miller Bradford gets a C-. Will Harris a D-. It's a C total. DBs, I give them a C. All right, so Jonathan, let me tell you, here's what I give the Saints grades on. Offense, a C. Defense, C+. Saints total grade, C.
Yep.
And it goes into it line. They haven't made the playoffs in 3 seasons. Not a lot of Pro Bowl players have come from the Saints team. Right now, the Saints, I think, are a C football team.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Chris. A mediocre football team that's going to scratch for 9, possibly 10 wins, limp into the playoffs. Luckily, look, unless the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Buccaneers are significantly improved from last season, this is still the worst division in football.
It is.
So it's wide open for the Saints.
Right.
If Derek Carr can just, stay afloat in the first half and give the fans something to believe in, I think Dennis Allen survives into the postseason. If the Saints look like they're not going to make the postseason, Chris, I think Dennis Allen gets the axe and gets it quick.
And I think also Mickey Loomis is right behind him.
Yeah.
I think they'll talk to Mickey Loomis behind the scenes and say it's time, and they'll let him retire and let him go after that, and that'll be it. And Mickey Loomis is done because kicking the can down the road has killed this team because it's hard to get great top quality players now because you got so much dead money they owe on. They owe a ton of dead money. That's just out of control, and that's got to stop.
And it doesn't hurt you with the draft picks. It hurts you with the free agents. And when you don't get the draft pick, now you have to pay for an experienced free agent who probably left because he demanded too much money from his old team. Well, there's no chance the Saints can afford to pay that guy. So, yeah, it's just we're going into with what we got, and hopefully these rookies can step up and play a lot of valuable minutes for the Saints because they're going to depend on these young guys to absolutely get some valuable playing time.
And I think what happens is that I'm all in the fact that you've got to give someone a chance. I think Dennis Allen messed up majorly last year with that situation with the Falcons. I think he lost the locker room right then and there. Now, will he regroup and regain it after this year? And I'm going to tell you, when you lose the locker room, it's over. As a coach, it's done. You have no chance of recovery unless you feel you have something that's going to spark this team, and he regained that locker room this offseason. But the last game of the season, he goes and apologized to the Atlanta Falcons football coach. They had that big brouhaha in the middle of the field. He didn't respond back. He just let the Coach Arthur get nuts on him. The Saints players didn't come out and say anything about it, but the way they talked about it, we're going to do what we want to do. That don't happen with any coach like Sean Payton or anybody like a Nick Saban or anybody like that. That means they have no respect. They don't fear Dennis Allen at all. That means he lost the locker room. When you lose the locker room, bye-bye, Birdie.
Well, Jameis Winston made it very public that he wanted to stay in New Orleans and finish his career with the Saints. He loved it down here. He loved the culture, loved the people. But look, you go against a coach, open insubordination, as they call it, he finds himself out the door. Now, I think you do bring back a Cameron Jordan because he is a Dennis Allen guy. So is the Mario Davis. So is the Honey Badger. These are Dennis Allen's guys. They were there for Sean Payton. They were there when he was just a defensive coordinator. That was their guy. They had his back. It's the same way in the locker room now. He's a head coach. That's why you bring these guys back for as long as you could possibly hold on to them. But this is it, Chris. This is the writing's on the wall. It's not his first stop. He couldn't get it done in Las Vegas. He gets his opportunity that Sean Payton leaves for the Broncos. Hasn't been able to make the playoffs, and this is going to be it for him, Chris. If he can't do it, there's too many talented coaches out there out in the world with no job right now to keep Dennis Allen employed if he can't make the playoffs.
And he had the second easiest schedule last year.
Yep.
The second easiest schedule, and you can't get it done. It's got to be able to do it. The only way that is, like I said, you got 3 seasons that he don't make it, the playoffs, that makes total 4 seasons total. But I'm going to tell you this right now, the reason I think that it has to happen is simply because of the fact those season tickets, the waiting line used to be ungodly.
Yep.
I bet it's now down to here because I know personally 3 of my friends have given up their season tickets for this year. 3, and they've had season tickets for years. The 4th guy that I know, he's just letting another guy buy it for the whole year, which is a dummy. I'd love to talk to that guy and say, you're an idiot, because my friend still has his name on the tickets, so he can take up the tickets anytime he wants to. But 4 of my buddies are not going to the Saints games for the first time. I'm talking 30 years. That shows you how much I would be willing to bet that wish list for season ticket holders is down. And it gets past that, and we start having blackout games like you mentioned earlier here in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And, brother, then it's over. We've had a sellout every single game since 2005. Ever since we came back from Hurricane Katrina, every time since then we've had sellout stadiums. It's from 2006 all the way till now.
My family was very blessed, Chris. We had 8 season tickets for a very long time. My parents, their first date was a Dallas Cowboys versus New Orleans Saints game. They went to the first game at Tulane Stadium, saw the run back.
Oh, yeah.
Forever we had tickets. Had tickets through, after Katrina, we saw all 3 games that were at LSU, through the stupid pandemic, scandemic, whatever it was.
Right.
We were in the lottery to get those tickets, went to a couple of those games, how weird that was. But between the renovations, the product on the field, the ticket prices, the concession stand increases, we've given them up. And like my dad likes to say, we were there for the best of times. We saw the Drew Brees, Sean Payton. We saw the NFC Championship games. We're downtown for the Super Bowl. So, hey, maybe it can come back. Maybe there'll be a revitalization. But right now, you have to show me, Chris. You have to show me.
Like I said, again, I give the Saints a C, and that's exactly where they're at. And again, like we talked about, they still have a chance to win it because this is, and I hate to say this, and look, I'm wearing my Saints shirt today. This is the worst division in all of football, and it's been that way for a couple of years. When Tom Brady comes back, he finishes 8-9, and they win the division and go to the playoffs. And last year, we all know Tampa did not have a great team, and they went to the playoffs. And the Saints barely missed out on the playoff run there, but other than that, the Saints at a C right after the draft. Again, the schedule is to be released this week, Wednesday. We'll find out what the times and the dates are. But like I said, I do think that Denver Saints game will be a primetime game, either Sunday, Thursday, or a Monday night. All right, when we come back, we're talking LSU softball, State of Louisiana softball, and Southern baseball. When we come back, as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and start to party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty Package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, and, of course, seen 5 times a week, Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., Fridays at 9 p.m., and Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. We're 5 times for the week on almost 2 million households in South Louisiana. 89% of the New Orleans metro area has Cox Cable. That's Pelican Sports is on there. Almost 400,000 in Baton Rouge, 140,000 in Lafayette, also seen in Morgan City and parts of Livingston and also Ascension Parish. LSU softball found out yesterday that they're going to be hosting a tournament. We knew that was going to happen. They were the third in the RPI rating. They are the 9th seed in the tournament, which makes them one out of the Super Regional, of hosting the Super Regional. They're the 9th seed. They will play Jackson State in Game 1 on Friday. That game will be at 6 p.m. here at Tiger Park. Southern Illinois and Cal will also play before them, I think at 3 or 3:30. I think it's 3. They're going to play then before that. And then, so winner of that game will play LSU on Saturday. More than likely be the Cal Bears, the Lady Bears. So that'll be interesting to see. But I think LSU gets out of this regional with no problem. The winner of this regional will play the 8th seeded regional, which is Stanford Lady Cardinals. Now, if for somehow Stanford were to get upset in their regional, which is a possibility in softball, say they get upset, and then we have LSU would then host the Super Regional, and whoever beats Stanford or wins that Stanford regional, they would come to LSU and play LSU for this. But LSU still not hitting the ball. They got 10 hits in that Alabama game. They look great. They allowed 8 hits on that day, and they won 3-2 in 14 innings, which at that point was the longest SEC tournament game in history. But again, a little bit later on, Auburn played, and they beat that. So with that being said, Game 2, they had 7 hits as they beat Tennessee, upset number 1 seed Tennessee 2-1. Then on Friday, they managed only 5 hits. For the SEC tournament, LSU was 22 of 103 at-bats. 22 hits at 103 at-bats. That makes her average at 213. That ain't going to get it done. I love Beth Torina to death. I do. She's a classy person. And I've known people that know Howard. I've never met Howard. There's the hitting coach. But how much longer is this guy's going to continue to be? And I know that softball is more about pitching than hitting. But you can't bat 213 and expect to win a championship. It ain't going to happen. You've got to be able to hit more. And every single year, everyone complains about LSU's hitting. They just go south. They have the bat on their shoulders, and they're going by walks. They're letting the first pitch go by, and I told you that. That's what my baseball coach did. That's fine. But then after that, they let the second strike go by, and then after that, you're defending the plate. So anything around the corner, you're either swinging and missing, or you're being called out on a third strike on the outside or inside corner. It's crazy. They're too patient behind the plate. They need to be more aggressive behind the plate. 213's not going to get it done. Love Beth Torina to death, and I want her to stay. But if you're going to let Coach Howard stay, then I'm afraid it comes as a package. Something has to happen. LSU, of course, is not the only one in the tournament from Louisiana. Louisiana Raging Cajuns will host the NCAA tournament as well. They are the 13th seed in their tournament, and they will play against Princeton. They also have Baylor and Ole Miss in their bracket as well. And the winner of this region, of the Lafayette region, goes to the Florida Gators. They'll have to travel to Florida to play the Gators. That won't be easy at all. The Southeastern Lady Lions. Marty's wearing his Southeastern jacket on, his hoodie on today. For the first time ever, Southeastern makes the NCAA tournament. Good job. Proud of you. Good job, Lady Lions. You'll be in the tournament, and they're going to Alabama to play the Alabama region. Hopefully they can beat the Crimson Tide. I'd not lose any sleep over that. In fact, I'd be happy. I'd lose sleep because I'd be so excited. And the Lady Lions will play Clemson in game 1 of their game. And this we were talking about off the air just a minute ago. 13 teams make the SEC tournament. 13 teams make the NCAA tournament. That is unbelievable. 13. That is critical. So I'm trying to, guys, I'm sitting there looking at you guys, and I'm wondering, so basketball for men averages about 5 to 6 teams in the tournament. Baseball will probably get about 8, usually about 8 in the tournament. Football, I think, is more top-heavy. I think you've got, teams like Alabama or Georgia and maybe an LSU. Those 3 could beat any teams in the country. And the rest of the teams, they beat each other up. They don't always – it's not guaranteed to win. I think Ole Miss is in that bracket now as well. But what other way have you ever heard that 13, all your teams in the SEC make the NCAA tournament? Now, Alan, you and I have a mutual friend in Gary Hale that lives in Oklahoma now. He's more of an LSU fan than an OU fan. And I told him that next year when Oklahoma comes to the SEC, they're not going to go undefeated all year like they normally have been. And he says, no, I think they have a good shot because they're pretty good. Tennessee was the number 1 ranked team going into the SEC tournament, and they didn't win it. Florida wins the tournament. And we don't have, back-to-back champions in the tournaments or in the regular season in the SEC softball. SEC softball is the best by far. Not only could be the best conference in all of the softball, but I think it's the best conference, period, in all sports.
Texas came in aboard.
I mean, it's 13 teams make the NCAA tournament? Are you kidding? That's amazing. All right, Southern Jaguar baseball team, they took 2 out of 3 this weekend to UAPB. They play their final regular season matchup this weekend here in Baton Rouge against the Grambling State Tigers. And with that, they will play Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll have the Friday and Saturday game on radio. I'll be there radio doing the play-by-play on 96.7. So we'll be doing that. It's WXOK, so we'll be doing that coming up. That, again, is on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll do the Friday and the Saturday. And they're playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday because next week their SWAC tournament begins in baseball. That'll be in Atlanta. All right, so that'll do it for us. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week, of course. LSU in their final regular season. How do they do against Ole Miss? They're getting ready for the SEC tournament. So we'll talk about that. Also, the Lady Tigers, they'll be finished with their bracket unless it's a rain delay, unless they rain this weekend, which there is rain expected this weekend too. So they might have to play their final game on a Monday. We'll talk about that next week as well. That'll be all right here on the same channel you got us on Cox Cable. It's Talking Sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV.